good, everybody? Let's get our Ask FP on. It is Tuesday. This is what we normally like to do as long as there's no hiccups and things like that on Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Central Time. We're going to start it off, actually 6 p.m. Central Time, I'm sorry. We're going to start it off with Jarrod Young with the question of the week. And he says, who is going to be the next face of the Lakers? That's a really good question, which is the reason why it's the question of the week. Obviously, you got D'Angelo Russell, who's on the team currently, but I just have a feeling that it's going to be whomever the biggest offseason acquisition is for the Lakers, which I think the top two candidates for that are Kevin Durant and DeMarcus Cousins. I'm willing to bet it's going to be Kevin Durant. I'm willing to bet it. People don't believe it. WII Breedlove is adamant in the comments section that he does not believe that Kevin's going to leave OKC, but that's one of my major predictions. Now, I'm gonna throw out some more predictions probably later on this month. That's one of my first major bold predictions. Kevin Durant's going to the Lakers. You dig it? All right. Mr. 502 Media says, is it time for college football to go to an 18 playoff? All of the Power 5 champions get auto bids and 3 at-large bids. I think it's a great idea. Personally, and this might seem exorbitant to some people, but I think 16 teams is really the true way to do it. Because then you get that Cinderella aspect of it. If a 16 beat a 1, we know how people act in college basketball when it happens. It wouldn't be as drastic in football, but if a 16 beat a 1, man, how amazing would that be? Or maybe you go to something like 12 or something. I got to do the math and see what you could do and have the bye. You know what I'm saying? Have the top 2 teams get a bye. Something like that. But I think there definitely needs to be more than 4. I think that's the bottom line of what we see. Parker Nelson says, you think my Pelicans are heading in the right direction to earn a championship in the future? I really don't, Parker. I don't. I didn't like the hire of Alvin Gentry. He's really never won anywhere he's ever been, except for like one season with Phoenix. But he had an overall losing record. His teams generally don't defend. And the only thing I think that they're doing right is locking up Anthony Davis. We'll see what happens if they get a really high draft pick. Maybe they get in the lottery and get that beast from LSU that we're going to talk about a little bit later on in the show today. But outside of that, I really don't. I don't think they're headed in the right direction. Jovan Radovanović says, where does the current Golden State Warrior team rank in your top 10 teams of all time? That's a difficult question because this season is still so young. Yes, they're off to an amazing start and blowing people out and so on and so forth. But if we're talking about this particular season, I think it's impossible to answer that because it's incomplete. But if we're talking about last year's team, to be honest, but before I could really assess last year's team and this year's team, I kind of need to see what they do this year, and then we can kind of group it together. If they run off, say for instance they break the Bulls 72-10 record and win the championship, right? At that point, you got to say they're a top 3-4 team to ever play, maybe the best team. You could easily say that, right? So, but I think we have to see what's going to happen at the end of the season first. Mr. Young is back again. He said, who had the better knockout, Holm or Jahlil Okafor? And that was really bogus. That was really bogus. I just pray Jahlil Okafor is not going down a bad path in terms of making some tough to bad decisions. He admitted that he had made some bad decisions in the coming weeks because I believe he got a speeding ticket driving a crazy speed. But it's hard to, obviously you don't really compare those two situations. One of them's on the street, one of them's in an octagon. But I hope he's not going down that path. It would be kind of shocking. I root for him obviously because he's from Chicago and I want him to do well, just like all of the guys. Pretty much I root for a lot of people. I want him to do. I don't wish bad on anybody, but obviously a guy from Chicago gets a little bit more of my attention. Jared's back again. He says, do you see a comparison between Ben Simmons, that's that beast from LSU, and LeBron James? In the way of versatility, yes, but as far as pure athleticism, I would give LeBron the edge. I think LeBron has better vision, even though Ben Simmons' vision is very good at this stage of his career. But here's one thing. I think Ben, you know what? There is some, because Ben Simmons can't really shoot yet either. And when LeBron first came to the league, he couldn't really shoot either. So I guess there is some, but I think LeBron's just more of a brute strength athlete than Ben Simmons is at this point. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing for Ben Simmons, because I think he has potentially have the potential to have a little bit more finesse to his game, which could be helpful. Jarrod Young again says, where does Chris Paul rank with the all-time best point guards? I think top 10. What do you think? I definitely would say top 10. I wouldn't put him ahead of Magic. I would not put him ahead of Isaiah Thomas, to be honest. I wouldn't put him ahead of Oscar Robertson if you call him a point guard. Some people may not. But aside from those three, it'd be hard. I mean, Gary Payton's definitely up there for me. I think he doesn't necessarily get as much credit as he deserves. But aside from those guys, I could even make an argument Chris Paul should be ahead of Gary Payton. So he's definitely in my top 5. WII Breedlove, we talked about you a little bit earlier. He says, will the Lakers be a good fit for Boogie Cousins? And I talked about that too. I do think he would be a good fit. I think he is growing up a bit and learning how to be a professional. And I mean, there's no question his talent. He's a monster. I mean, he is easily the most skilled big man in the NBA right now. I mean, Brook Lopez is probably second, and Pau Gasol is still in there too. But and Mark is as well. But I would put Boogie ahead of those guys in terms of pure skill. And just look at what he's doing. He's starting knocking down threes. He's a rebound beast. I mean, yeah, I definitely think he fits, and I think he'd be an intriguing face of the franchise. Who knows? Maybe the Lakers try to pull something where they get him and Durant. Wow. Trevor says, how bright is the Tennessee Titans' future? I think it's decent because they have their quarterback. And when you have your quarterback, that's the foundation, that's the nucleus, that's the beginning of it all. You want to have your head coaching, you want to have your coaching staff in order. You want to have a general manager that's capable of putting the right players together, and you need a quarterback. Those are like the three components to be pointed in the right direction, and I think the Titans have that. Honestly, I think the hardest thing to get is to get that quarterback, and they have that now. So I think, yes, their future is pretty bright. I'm not sure how quickly they'll be able to flip and turn this around into being a contender, but they're in the right division, because you probably ain't got to win but 8 games to win the division in the AFC South right now. Anyway, so there you go. WII Breedlove again says, with Kobe announcing his retirement, should he have retired a few years ago or not? I think he probably should have retired maybe 1 or 2 years ago, but I don't fault him, because, I mean, who wouldn't have taken that contract that they gave him, which is probably the worst contract for a team I can think of since John Hot Rod Williams. Y'all got to look that up. Back when nobody was making major money, the Cleveland Cavaliers paid John Hot Rod Williams $5 million a year. He was the highest paid player in the NBA for like a season or so. It was ridiculous. Kobe, at the age that he signed that contract, with the physical condition he was in, it was a ridiculous contract. But like I said, I can't fault him. King Hype says, who do you think is returning at the Royal Rumble? Boom, Batista. I think Batista's coming back at the Royal Rumble. I do. I really believe that. I wouldn't be surprised to see The Rock at the Royal Rumble either. That would be pretty awesome. But they probably try to space out. You're probably not going to see that many big time returns. So you probably see some smaller stuff. Some smaller people come down. You know what would be pretty awesome, even though it's obviously lost a little bit of steam now. But Ronda Rousey at the Royal Rumble would be pretty funny, even though she's not quite big enough. Like, you saw Karma come to the Royal Rumble once, and it was really cool because she could actually physically throw guys out of the ring. But Ronda can't do that. So, but it's lost a little bit of luster in light of recent events. Ruben Ayala says, what's your take on Jahlil Puig's recent bar fight, and do you think it will hurt his reputation as a player? Yeah, I think it's going to do further damage, because he's already getting the rap of not being a guy who's going to live up to his talent. I think that he's such an enormous talent. He was getting by on that alone for a short while, but baseball is a sport where people are going to make adjustments on you, and you have to work, and you have to be serious about your craft. And if you aren't, you're never, when the competition turns the page, you won't turn the page with them. And I think that's some of what we're seeing with Puig. Ruben Ayala also says, do you think if it wasn't for the Angels' record, then Mike Trout would have more MVP awards already, along with the 2014 award? Maybe. It's possible. I think it was definitely there for him to win this year if the Angels had made the playoffs, and he probably could have taken it from Josh Donaldson. So yeah, I would definitely say this year for sure. If the Angels make the playoffs, he probably wins the MVP. So because he had a decent enough season, even though he did kind of fall off a little bit towards the end. But he's going to get a lot of competition moving forward, because there's some really good young players in the American League. Carlos Correa, Jurickson down there in Cleveland. I mean, they got it's some really, and not to mention, perennial guys like Donaldson. So yeah, it's going to be some competition. Easton T says, will we see any big free agents go to the Lakers, and if so, who? Obviously, we already talked about Kevin Durant, but I think there's a possibility that there could be I put it like this. I believe that the Lakers are going to make 2 major acquisitions in the offseason. I think they're going to make sure that it happens, and Los Angeles is going to be the most attractive place for anybody to go in the offseason this year. It's LA. The money is going to be there, and there's not going to be any Kobe there to be like this ominous figure over what you're doing. So I think it's going to be the most attractive place for anybody to go. We got a lot of Kobe going on, because Easton T says, in their primes, who's better, Kobe or Reggie Miller? I can't even believe that's a serious question, Easton. I'm not the biggest Kobe fan like a lot of people, but come on. I mean, Reggie Miller was a really, really, really good shooter, and that's really about it, to be honest. Kobe was when in his prime, Kobe was a complete player. He could defend. He could score from everywhere on the floor. He changed the way teams had to defend the Lakers. Reggie, you got to know where he is, because you got to deny him the ball. And yes, he's a great shooter and all of that, but that's a one-dimensional player. It's a one-dimensional star. I'll make the statement that Reggie Miller was not a superstar. He was a star. Kobe was a superstar. Sharuk Rahat says the top 5 wide receivers this season only, and why? For me, it is DeAndre Hopkins, Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, and Odell Beckham Jr. I agree with you on Hopkins, Brown, and Jones. I'm not sure that I would elevate Cooper there just yet. Yes, he's had a really, 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 really good season, but I mean, you can penalize certain guys like Alshon Jeffrey for being hurt. But when Alshon Jeffrey's been on the field, he's been elite. I think 5 games with over 100 yards. He has 2 or 3 double-digit reception games. So, yeah, I don't know if I can go quite there with that, for him. So, I don't know. I would have to. I mean, Odell Beckham Jr. I probably still keep there though. Vaughn Resper Jr. says, buy or sell, HBK from the 90s or HBK from the 2000s? Ooh, probably HBK from the 2000s is the one I would buy and sell. The 90s, I think he was still coming into his own in the 90s. In the 2000s, he is fully into his gimmick, and just all of the theatrics were there and in place. And I think most of his most impressive matches, promos, outside of throwing Marty Jannetty through the glass, were done in the 2000s. So I would have to go with the 2000s version. Ruben Ayala says, why do you think that Bo Jackson was never suspected or speculated when it came to steroids? When Bo Jackson was playing, the steroid thing wasn't really as much of a conversation. He had already gotten hurt, I believe. I can't remember the year exactly he got hurt. But, that whole thing didn't kick up as much until kind of like after he was gone. And the other thing about Bo Jackson was, ever since Bo Jackson was ever anything. Anybody ever knew. Everybody always knew him as this freakish athlete. There was no change or transformation. Most of the people who were expected of steroids saw a crazy body transformation. Bo never saw a body transformation. He was built like a Mack truck from the beginning, from college on. So I think that's the biggest reason. Jarrod Young with the last question of the day says, where does Kobe Bryant rank amongst the best ever? I told you we had a lot of Kobe. Amongst the best ever, I would say Kobe is, and Kobe fans gonna get mad. I would say probably top 15. Top 15. I don't think he's in my top 10. Just me. I talent wise, yes. I mean, there's never been very many people. There's 3 or 4 guys who could do everything Kobe could do. But from what he did on the floor with the poor shot selection, most of his whole entire career, a lot of people look the other way with it. Just like Brett Favre, bad decision making. People look the other way for whatever reason because he's Brett Favre. Same thing with Kobe, but still, you can't deny, 5 championships, 17 All-Star games. One of the all-time greats. I appreciate you watching. God bless. Peace.